Hello, BookTube. Very sorry for the interruption in regular service here at Steve Donoghue Studios. Instead of bombarding you with videos every day, I'm lucky if I can make one. That's because construction is going on here at Hyde Cottage. And like most in-home construction, what looked like it was a little job has grown into a bigger job. And first thing tomorrow, we enter into a stage I have dreaded, a word I don't even like to say. Those of you who are homeowners or who have ever dealt with in-home construction might want to sit down or maybe block your ears before I repeat it. And that word, of course, is plumbing. Or more accurately, since the plumbing is inanimate and never offended anyone, plumbers. And they're always booked schedules, and they're always increased rates, and their godlike attitude, and their incredibly high likelihood of doing bad work that needs to be redone. Without ever a refund in sight. That starts first thing in the morning and goes on for God knows how long. And so I can't promise that my regular filming schedule is going to go back to normal. But I've got a little bubble of relative peace and quiet. I thought I'd make a few videos to fill that void, just in case I only get to make one tomorrow, maybe two tomorrow. So we'll do a few. We've got a bunch of things to talk about. So the first one we'll do is mail. The mail has been coming through. I have been opening it in high dudgeon and not filming that. But I've got a little that came very late last night. So it's perfectly good for a Sunday where I ordinarily wouldn't get mail at all. A Father's Day Sunday. A gray, cold Sunday here in Boston, which feels really, really weird. If you look at a map of the upcoming week for America, you will see what I talked about a couple of weeks ago, a heat dome. And it's enormous. It stretches from one end of the country to the other. That is what we can look forward to in the new world's climate. We can look forward to rampant, uncontrollable heat for most of the year. Unsurvivable heat if you live in Texas, where the Republicans own the power source. They own the power grid that will run your electricity, that will run your air conditioner. And they hate you. they very much want you dead. Sort of like, I don't know, Ebola, which needs you to live but still wants to kill you. Apparently they still have 170 million fascist voters in this country, so that's just going to go on. If you live in Texas, you should leave, because you're subject to everything. Heat waves, freak snowstorms, hurricanes, just not earthquakes. Anyway, if you look at that heat dome that is covering most of the United States, you'll see that it very neatly, almost surgically leaves out New England. It stops almost at the border of Massachusetts. Now, I know perfectly well that's not going to stay true. I would be willing to bet that parts of, for instance, the plains here in America, parts of the upper Midwest, will get some relief, and probably pockets of relief that go on for a week at a time, even at the height of summer, when Boston is trapped under a heat dome. And who knows what that will be like, but it's not like that now, at all. Not at all. It was chilly last night, and it's been chilly all day today because there's been no sunlight. But there's mail, which is the point of the whole thing. The first thing is a periodical. I don't have any idea what it is. It has my name on it, so it wasn't sent to me by accident. It's not somebody else who used to live here. But I have never signed up for this thing. I've never heard of it before. I can only assume that it's sort of a promotional freebie done laterally through some other subscription that I have. It's home decor. So maybe it's connected to House Beautiful or Veranda or Architectural Digest or whatever, but it's this thing. It's RH Contemporary. Big, thick thing. Just a big, thick, square-pound volume. I had no idea what it is, so I read Gary Freeman is the chairman of RH, and he has a sort of a letter at the opening. Still don't understand it. He seems to me go out of his way not to say what he is or what his company does, and he ends his email with Carpe Diem. But then we get a shot of all the folks at RH Contemporaries. The smirking guy right there is the chairman and CEO, and then you get all these other people who are designers whose work will be featured in this issue. The guys connected there are brothers, and the most beautiful. They're all sitting on these marble staircases, and they're all copying real interior designer attitude. But there's only one actually beautiful person anywhere in this lineup, and she's all the way at the end. There we go. I might buy a chair from her. But these other people, I had my doubts, and then I looked at what was in the issue. That is a chair, in case you're wondering. Doesn't it make you just ooze with comfort? This is, as I was looking at the furniture in here, I was seeing that this is not only furniture for androids, but furniture for fascist androids. So not the good kind of android like the Vision on the Avengers or Mitt Romney, but fascist androids. So I don't know why this was sent to me. I mean, you can see the problem with it, the pathology of it, the psychopathology of it, right on the cover. This is something you could do something with, right? It's an ugly but a fairly distinguished looking table with a nice decoration on it, and there's a corner and there's a window. But you have to get rid of this. I don't know what that is. I don't know how you could sit in it. You have to get rid of that and put a chair in. And there are things that you could do with this. You of course don't ever block a framed space, but that's okay because this thing is ugly anyway. What you want to do is get rid of this pediment and put this on the floor with this thing right here, maybe flanked by two tall flowering plants, two things that would not block the frame space, but that would frame the frame space in greenery, because this is all beige, or as I think one page in here puts it, burnt ochre. So you'd want to do that, and then the chair you would want it wouldn't be there. You don't want your back to the window. Instead, the chair would be sort of diagonal to this space. So you're looking at the frame space and the plants, but the natural light is falling on your lap as you sit in a normal human chair, not this proctologist exam. So I don't know why I got this. I'm sure that I didn't pay for it. So I'm thinking that it's just a promotional freebie of some kind. I just opened it to another chair. Yeah, just pull up and get yourself comfortable. I won't even tell you the prices of these abominations. They are, just imagine it. Imagine an extortionate price and then triple it. They are abominable. Just to imagine having this in your home anyway. I'd pay someone to remove it, but imagine on top of that paying a year's salary for one of these torture devices. So that was the only periodical, but there are a couple of envelopes. So we can look at some mail here and see. We haven't done mail in a long time here. Everything's disrupted because the walls are torn apart. Oh, look at this. Oh, it's a tiny little thing. Okay, this is new from the folks at Tor. Very happy to be getting books from them. And this comes out at the end of June. It's a little thing. It's a collection of stories called The Sands of Dune by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson, the usual suspects who've done all of the Dune pastiche novels that have come out in their endless numbers in the last 20 years. Let's see here. The release of Denis Villeneuve's Dune was one of the biggest cinematic events of 2021. Yes, indeed. I did a whole video on a movie. I almost never do that. And I made a couple of bad calls. I predicted that the movie would not do well. And so there would never be a sequel. Now the only thing that would stop a sequel from happening, the movie did well, critically and financially. So the only thing that would stop a sequel from happening now would be the overdose of one of its stars. No names. And has reignited interest in the saga crafted by science fiction titan Frank Herbert. At the end of June, so this is June the 28th, we've still got a week and more to go. Herbert's son Brian Herbert and his co-author Kevin J. Anderson are releasing The Sands of Dune, a book of novellas set in this endlessly fascinating world. These are collected for the first time. I think these occurred elsewhere, maybe on Tor.com or something like that. That I don't know. I don't know the provenance. I wonder if it tells me in here. Yeah, these novellas occurred in periodicals. Unfettered, Infinite Stars, Unbound 2. So those aren't periodicals. They've appeared in other anthologies where the editor is putting together an anthology and taps these two. Hey, could I get an original novella for this as a selling point for this anthology? So they are now all collected in this thing, which is not only thinner than all of their other Dune pastiche novels, but also, if I'm not mistaken, shorter. So you you delightful AAA people out there, you know who you are. It's going to drive you crazy sitting on your shelf. So what are the stories? Are we going to... These are the stories that expand on the Dune universe, telling the lost years of Gurney Halleck as he works with smugglers on Arrakis in the deadly gambit for revenge. Inside the ranks of the Sardaukar, as the child of a betrayed nobleman becomes one of the Emperor's most ruthless fighters, and a young firebrand Fremen woman, a guerrilla fighter against the ruthless Harkonnens who will one day become shut-out mapes. So, backstories that are fan fiction, let's keep in mind. I have no fundamental objection to these books. Neither one of these authors can write anywhere near the level that Frank Herbert writes at, so you have to be prepared for that. But I have no fundamental objection to the existence of these books. I know that, with any compelling fictional universe, readers will want to go back to it. They will want to return to that universe, whether it's a million Dracula pastiche novels, a million Sherlock Holmes pastiche novels, or Dune pastiche novels. The only objection that I have to this whole series is the imprimatur of it being somehow official, because the author's son is involved. That drives me crazy. When I see these books packaged uniformly along with the Dune books by Frank Herbert, as if they were the same thing, as if you need to read House Carino by Brian Herbert in order to understand Dune that immediately follows that trilogy. It just, it irks me, because that is not true. Of course, that is not true. These are not official. There is no such thing as official. An author only writes the works that author writes. Once that author is dead, that author is no longer composing, that author is decomposing. So no one can write any more Frank Herbert books. I don't care what their last name is. But if you look at these just as pastiche novels, so they're giving you an idea of the time, that the adventures that Gurney Halleck had amongst the smugglers before that great scene in Dune where he reunites with Paul, right? Where he's pounding him on the back and saying, young pup, and Paul is saying, Gurney man, because they never thought they'd see each other again. That scene where they reunite in Dune is years after we last see Gurney Halleck, whose exact activities on the night when the shield goes down and the house is exposed and the Sardaukar start swarming into every hallway, his activities are unknown. We see him in the Dune movie. We see him on that night in the Dune movie, but we don't see him on that night in the book. We get vague hints of what, for instance, Thufir Hawat is doing. And we know perfectly well what Duncan Idaho is doing, but we don't really see how Gurney Halleck makes his escape. 40 years ago, there was a fan fiction story, again, not published, just in a fanzine, that accused him of treason. There was a fan fiction story that said that he fled, that he knew ahead of time that an attack was coming and fled, and that was driving his incredible burning desire to make things right with the Atreides, because unbeknownst to them, he had betrayed them. This is a different story than that, but it's no more valid just because it has the imprimatur of Dune and Frank Herbert's son. So if you think of it that way, then it won't irritate you. It doesn't, at least don't irritate me anymore. They're kind of... The novels tend to be kind of dull. The Butlerian Jihad should have been a great book. Even as fan fiction, it should have been a great book, and it wasn't. Sandworms of Dune, the Mentats of Dune, the Sisters of Dune, all those endless books. I think I've read them all. And there's barely a scene or two in them that even approach the dramatic power of even a toss-off scene in any of the original 5 novels. But this could still be very interesting. And maybe, I of course have not read these novellas. They occurred in original anthologies that I never saw. So maybe these authors are among the many, many authors who do better work in shorter form. That could easily be true. So this comes out in just a little while. This will be an example of a mail haul dictating a TBR. I am reading a couple of books, one print book. I'm doing a slow crawl through another print book, and a bunch of advanced books, but this will still go on the list. I haven't read it. So then we'll move on to the second and final book, and maybe they'll be mailed tomorrow. Maybe I should be a little bit less flustered by all the flaking asbestos so that I can do mail tomorrow. We shall see. Okay, what is this? Okay, so this comes out in October, the end of October. So this may be the latest, one of the latest books that I have on the workbook shelf. The workbook shelf where I keep my advanced copies, where I keep the things that I'm planning in upcoming months, and that is almost completely buried by framed paintings, plants, clothing, cots that are piled in front of it because they can't live where they usually do because of construction. But at least where they are free from, oh, I don't know, what do you think? A pipe burst? So if that happens tomorrow, practically on such clockwork that you could set your watch by it, at least those things won't be damaged. But anyway. So this is by Renee Dudley and Daniel Golden, and it is called The Ransomware Hunting Team. A band of misfits in probable crusade to save the world from cybercrime. Gotta say, I love this cover. I don't think there's any chance. This is an October release. I don't think there's any chance they'll keep this cover. But boy, oh boy, they should. It doesn't look like a normal, boring, bad, ugly American cover. It has character. They should keep this. But I don't think there's any chance of that. But what have we got here? Daniel Golden has been recognized by the Pulitzer Prizes, both for his work as an editor and as a reporter, and Renee Dudley was a 2017 Pulitzer finalist for her reporting on a major college admissions testing scandal. What does that mean? Daniel Golden was recognized by the Pulitzer Prizes, both for his work as an editor and as a reporter. Did he win the prize? Or did the prize recognize him when they got on the same elevator? What does that mean? Did he win the prize? And if so, why wouldn't you say that? Do we have his author bio? Daniel Golden is a reporter and senior editor at ProPublica who has won a Pulitzer Prize for three George Polk Awards. Okay, so he won a Pulitzer Prize and 3 George Polk Awards, but here it says that he has been recognized by the Pulitzer Prize both for his work as an editor and as a reporter. So that's what it means. It means that one time he was in the running, and one other time he won. Okay, let's see here. With the ransomware hunting team, Dudley and Golden have teamed up to tell the story of a loosely aligned and far-flung group of private cybersecurity experts who've taken it upon themselves to fight back against the rapid spread of ransomware. The authors combined fine-grained personal portraits of some of the ransomware fighters, such as Michael Gillespie, a self-taught tech phenom from central Illinois, and his mentor, the German-born and London-based Fabian Wosar, with a broader history of ransomware from its invention in 1989 by a Harvard-trained primatologist, no less, and its rapid proliferation to recent high-profile attacks on our cities, hospitals, and infrastructure. And also banks. Let's not leave that out. Let's not leave out banks. Your bank has paid off ransomware, no matter what your bank is. The ransomware hunting team. God almighty. Okay, so, you got the cover right, but you're going to change it. And you got the title wrong, and you're not going to change that. This is the ransomware hunting team. Not this doctoral dissertation down here. The ransomware hunting team is the subtitle of this book. And I guarantee you beyond a shadow of a doubt that a great title for this book exists on the first 3 or 4 pages. I guarantee you it does. But will they change it? No. No, instead, the ransomware hunting team. That's what the book is about. The title of the book is not what the book is about. The title of the book is something else. Anyway, the ransomware hunting team is an eye-opening expose of an urgent but little understood topic that features a vivid cast of characters from Russian hackers and shady security specialists to stolid FBI agents and their motley heroes, and reads at times like a techno thriller. It sounds like it will. It's got some advanced blurbs. I'm actually tempted. I have other things that I want to do, so I don't, I don't want to go hunting. But I'm so tempted to go hunting in the first 3 or 4 pages of this book to find its title. Although, uh, the title could easily be from the epigraph. The epigraph is from Rudyard Kipling. Oh, if once you've paid him the Dane geld, you never get rid of the Dane. That is the epigraph for the book. Why not call it Dane geld? You'll never see another book by that title. You'll want to know what it means. It's got a ring to it. Why not call it that? But I am sure that somewhere in these first few pages is also an alternate title that would work. I won't go looking for it. I won't go looking for it, especially if we've already found one. But it does sound fascinating. I love books like this, provided they're well done. Even though I don't understand a lot of the technology involved, I still love it. The Worm, for instance, by is that Michael Lewis, about the Conficker virus. I learned so much from that book. Things like this, I'm perfectly happy to dive right into it. It's a geek fest, but it's a fascinating one, especially since, again, you want to keep in mind here that this might be a geeky book, but it's not a geeky problem. It affects everybody. And it's incredibly sophisticated, and it's everywhere. Imagine for a minute a scenario in which, let's say you do your banking online. You shouldn't, but let's say you do. So the ransomware hackers in this book can idly, in a matter of 15 minutes, they can learn as much as they need to know about your bank account, how much you have in there, the shape of your IRAs, anything connected to your bank account, your 401k. They'll, in other words, be able to tell in 15 minutes what your net worth is. And now imagine that you have a grandfather in the hospital, in ICU. Well, what would you pay to keep him safe? You can't move him. What would you pay to keep him safe if someone hacks the equipment that's keeping him alive? Someone who knows exactly how much you can pay. And scale that up for states or whole countries. Scale it up for power grids. If your city is facing a week of triple-digit temperatures, and a ransomware gets a hold of the power grid that keeps the municipal AC running, what's going to happen there if that ransomware hacker emails the governor of the state and says, "You won't find me before people start dying and stacking in the streets like cordwood. So here's the account that you can pay, in Bitcoin on the dark web." So it affects everybody, because if that governor decides to pay that and keep it hush hush so that his constituents don't know that it even happened, you can guarantee he's going to pass along that expense in your tax bill. So it's a fascinating subject. In other words, I'm not going to get to it at all this far away from October, but I'm looking forward to, what was it called again? The Ransomware Hunting Team Incorporated et al. LLC Limited, all partners notified. It's my strong advice to the people at FSG. I know that only 2 of you are listening, and you probably agree with me already. Keep the cover and change the title. Change the title. Get rid of the doctoral dissertation. Put this down here and put a title up here. We could go with the Dane geld, but I'm sure in the first 5 pages of this book, there's another title that works just as well. So that dumb Americans don't think it's about Denmark. Anyway, we have ransomware hunting. It's going to be a lot of fun to get to it. And then we have an immediate concern, a little collection of Dune pastiche novellas that's due at the end of this month. It's coming out at the end of this month. So I'll do it tonight. This will take no time at all to read. And there might be something in it that's good. Plus RH. Maybe you know what this is? I have no idea what this is. Have you ever seen this at a newsstand? Is this some sort of promotional thing? It kind of looks like a promotional brochure. I mean, it doesn't have any content to it at all, except glossy photos of where the evil android in the Aliens movie would go to live when he's not killing people. So maybe it's just a promotional thing. But anyway, that's the mail for today on a chilly Sunday. I mean, once the sun goes down, I'm going to have to close that window. The beam will just get cold, which is kind of weird. in, going into the last week of June when so many of the rest of you are in a convection oven. But it's coming. It's coming for Boston. I know that. Ordinarily I would be thinking about it ahead of time, but I've got so many other worries to think about in the short term for tomorrow that I don't have the bandwidth. I am thinking not about heat domes, but about, again, homeowners might want to sit down, plumbing and plumbers. Sooner or later, I mentioned last week foolishly that I saw the light at the end of the tunnel. It's all tunnel. There's no light. But sooner or later, it can't go on forever. Is the thing I am now telling, the thing I'm reduced to now telling myself. It can't go on forever. It just can't go on forever. If there are workers here every day, then it can't go on forever. It's only if they leave the job undone and just go somewhere else, Canopy Lake Park maybe for the rest of the summer, that it could go on a long, long time. If they're here and working from 8 until 5 every day, then it can't go on forever. That's what I'm telling myself. But anyway, we'll see what kind of mental shape I'm in tomorrow. Thank you, BookTube.